A gracious good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on Prime Flash this Tuesday morning. We apologize for the late start. The human interest story, well, a 4-story building at the Makepe neighborhood here in Douala 5 municipality has been consumed by ravaging fire. The incident, which took place recently here at the nation's economic capital, has recorded no human casualty, but with enormous loss, as Eileen Sama completes the rest of the story in this report.
The cause of the fire, which broke out at about 10 a.m. Saturday morning, the 27th day of November, is not known, but emanated from the second floor of the huge 4-story building at the Makepe neighborhood in Douala 5 municipality, littoral region of Cameroon. Flames then spread to the other parts of the building fastly. Some law enforcement officers were spotted at the fire scene to take stock of the event, while the inhabitants stood in shock and watched the story building being brought down by the inferno. However, they alerted the elements of the firefighting brigade, who came to the scene shortly after when the fire had engulfed the entire building. No lives were lost, but material losses huge. Nonetheless, the reoccurrence of fire outbreaks in Douala and other cities of Cameroon is a call for all citizens and the government to work collaboratively, dissecting the main causes of these fire incidents, usually unknown, and reinforcing strict preventive measures to stop the huge losses recorded on a monthly basis, and in some cases, the loss of human lives.
We now talk something of general interest, where the Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, has passed out a press release with regards to the frequent publication of videograms affecting collective conscience as well as human dignity. Let's now get details of this story with our reporter Clarice Ngwa.
The publication of videograms depicting full sexual intercourse in leisure areas, homosexuality has been on a widespread on the social media and the internet. This has prompted the government of Cameroon to react to this upsurge in the social ill. Rene Emmanuel Sadi, during a press briefing in Yaoundé on Friday, reminded Cameroonians that every society has laws and a commonly accepted normative code to which citizens must conform, and not an open door where everyone does what he or she wants. The government strongly denounces and condemns these abuses, which are likely to damage the image of the country, and urges organizers to put an end to them without prejudice to the sanctions they may incur, both legally and administratively. However, women who indulge in such shameless acts will equally be punished accordingly. In this light, Article 263, 264, and 265 of the Criminal Code provide for imposition of custodial sentences and fines on all those guilty of such acts. The government of the Republic appeals for maturity, morality, sense of responsibility, and convict-mindedness of each and every one, so that human dignity may be preserved.
And away from that, we now talk something else, where a 2-day conference to fight against violence in the school milieu, organized by the Peace Office of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, has held recently in Bafoussam. During the conference, resolutions have centered on the best measures school authorities must adopt to curb the growing ill. Let's get the complete story in the following report.
In recent times, the rate of violence emanating from the school milieu is shockingly alarming, with students being the perpetrators against peers and, in the most condemned terms, even against tutors. Despite all measures being put in place by the state, it seems an end to the rising ill is still far-fetched. Reason why stakeholders in the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon have met with school authorities during this 2-day conference to address the growing phenomenon.
Actually, we are converging here in Bafoussam on a very important activity, and we are culminating here in Bafoussam to continue this project on peace education.
Initiated by the PCC, the conference has witnessed the active attendance of some parents, teachers and officials selected from the towns of Buea, Kumba, Douala and other towns where the highest crime wave in schools are recorded yearly.
We are basically here on two main objectives. One, to see how teachers can discuss common ground on discipline, which we are advocating for non-fouling kind of discipline within our schools. And the second part, we are also thinking that at the end of it, this August Assembly can be able to come out with policies, maybe to ask the government through this important meeting to include peace education in the curriculum in our schools.
And the main objective of this workshop is to bring these ideas together to foster peace within our school communities. It is very true that in recent times we've had a lot of violence in our schools, and it is a point of concern for the PCC Peace Office.
The two-day event was characterized with a series of exchanges centered around the resolutions for peace and non-violence in the school milieu, with the most important point raised being the introduction of a conflict resolution and management-like course to be integrated into the school curriculum.
We now wrap today's edition of Prime Flash with the story where some internally displaced women and girls in Ngwa subdivision of the West region of Cameroon have benefited from the benevolence of the International League of Women's Rights. The humanitarian association, with the objective of assisting the vulnerable persons in the society, has also assisted the women and the girls financially in order to become stable. Let's get details with Kebi Nora in this report.
The situation of the internally displaced is becoming more alarming in the Ngwa division. Reasons why the International League of Women's Rights came up recently with an initiative to assist internally displaced women and young mothers. According to the president of the organization, looking at the situation of the internally displaced, they feel the need to help them by building capacities and empower them economically.
The project aims at building the capacities in income-generating activities of 500 women, 350 internally displaced people, and 150 girls mothers in the division. You know that because of the crisis, this group is considered a really vulnerable group. During the gender conflict analysis that we conducted in Cameroon from 2019 to 2020, we were able to assess the degree of vulnerabilities of the internally displaced people. And you know that the Ngwa division has the highest numbers of internally displaced people. So because of their vulnerabilities, we need to support them.
Amongst the participants of this launching, both religious leaders and traditional chiefs galvanized personal efforts. The traditional ruler of Foreke village had this to say. It is with so much delight that we welcome this project, which comes to give a pat on our back, adding to the efforts we have been putting forth already in the field. I have personally taken upon myself to provide feeding and accommodation for some IDPs from my pocket. It should be noted that the Ngwa division shares boundaries with Lebealem in the southwest region, which encourages easy influx of war-displaced persons from the northwest and southwest regions. One of the participants, a beneficiary and internally displaced, appreciates the fact that the association has decided to teach them how to fish rather than giving them fish always.
I'm here to represent the IDPs in China. Yes, I've been in China more than 3 years, and we Cameroon has been assisting us with food items, which about 3 times. So today, they have called us to come and see them. They have decided that they will not be giving us fish. They will give us food to go to the streets.
The desperate conditions of the internally displaced in the country has prompted most of these humanitarian groups to work tooth and nail to give them hope for better days ahead.
Nora Kakebi's story completes this edition of Prime Flash this morning. Up next is In the House with Eileen Sama. The news was produced by Ngwa, Desmond. I have been Dolly Ngonde. Stay tuned for more important and interesting programs on the African Eye.